We are your hosts. I am Angel, and this is the Official Wrestling Museum's Hall of Famer.
I was waiting for that.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah, low life.
I wanted to throw them off a little bit. We're brought to you by the Official Wrestling Museum. Now, this is a 1-hour show that we talk about community-based or interviews with professional wrestlers. Now, sometimes wrestling, actually more than sometimes, plays a huge part in the communities when it's not just about professional wrestling.
Yeah. Well, you know what's funny is so I'll let you finish your intro first.
Oh, so what we did last month, and this is a 1-hour show that runs strictly for a month here on this network, and then we put it on our YouTube page off our website. And last month we talked about something very special that we believe that even if you're not dealing with the same situation 100%, it could be something that you can be related to or know somebody that's going through it. And I think this story, or we both feel, that this is a story that you might be able to gain something from. It could be some knowledge, it could be some relief, it could be some processing, it could be some comfort, knowing that somebody else is going through it. And we started last month, and we knew that it wasn't just going to be a one show. So we're doing part 2, and I'm going to turn it over to you to kind of tie it all together.
Well, yeah, like how you were saying there, like I think maybe like the ultimate thing is as far as like your mental health. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not an expert on the subject, but I know like if you've watched, I would advise if you haven't watched the first part and you're watching this part, go back and watch the first part first, because this part is like you jump into it.
Right, and that you can go to, didn't mean to cut you off, go to officialwrestlingmuseum.com, click on our YouTube tab, it's right up there, you can't miss it. And, well, tell me a little bit of what part 1 was about. So
yeah, part 1 was about, meeting my fiance, and she, real quick, she passed away a month before our wedding. She had epilepsy, she passed from a seizure, and then we kind of talked about just the initial shock of it, dealing with it that weekend, how we exposed my son to it, kind of. Actually, we didn't mention that part. So when I did eventually tell my son, we used his toys, and
really,
I used like X-Men, like Archangel, and he didn't understand it though. He does now, but to a point. But I was gonna say, like, ultimately, what you had said there, I think the ultimate main thing here is mental health, and like, all these years I'm sitting there like, I'm showing everyone how to handle a situation like this. I'm an old school guy, and I'm sitting there, I'm showing everyone, you don't cry about it. You don't, not that I don't think, I've cried. I'm not saying that, but like, I'm not on Facebook crying about it. I'm not looking for sympathy. I'm not this, that. Where I've seen other people that, count how many days someone has been gone or something. And it's like, the truth is, like, number one, no one should tell anyone how to grieve. You grieve your own way. But there is no right way. There is no wrong way. And here I am all these years going, this is how you do it, guys. Let me show everyone that, look how strong I am getting through it. And now here we are coming up almost on the 4-year anniversary of Zsatara's passing. And I feel like I'm at square one, day one, because as we mentioned in the first part, that very first moment when I got the initial call, I remember I was like, what? My first initial reaction. But after that, first initial maybe 20 seconds, it went from me thinking about myself to my son, her mother, So I haven't, I was just saying, like, I've never taken the time for me, and I've never grieved for me, and the way I have handled the grieving, even though I'm sitting there like, yeah, this is how you handle it, this is what you do, I feel like it's been also a detriment to me, because it's now, I'm almost 4 years in, and now have backtracked or regressed.
So as a recap, you, about 4 years ago, worked in Boston, came home to New Hampshire, didn't want to go to your parents' house like planned because you didn't want to drive back to Boston.
And it was simple as that. I just didn't want to go back to Boston.
Your wife was like, no, go. Nathanael will have a good time, which was your 4-year-old son. At that time, he was 4. She convinced you to go. She went off to work. You were in your bubble bath because you love your baths with your rubber duckies. And
my tub, I had no water bill, so I could.
You just sat there and just kept flowing.
I had well water. So.
She called you up. The last 3 words or 3 phrases she said was, "Are you going to go? I miss you.
Yeah.
I love you."
Yeah.
That was the last time you guys spoke. You went to your parents' house. She didn't call you that night, but you thought maybe she just fell asleep because she was tired.
Oh, yeah, I thought she fell asleep.
Next morning, there was no call. Kind of thought it was odd, but didn't think too much. Her work called.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, maybe she overslept because you called her, went to voice message. Oh, she overslept. Phone wasn't on because it died. No alarm. You had the neighbor across the street said the car was there. Then you wanted to just play a kind of joke because you thought everything was okay. Now, she had a history of seizures with epilepsy.
Yep.
You figured out a pattern that usually a couple of days before you guys would have a small argument, but it wouldn't be an argument that would be a sake of an argument. It would be an argument over something petty. That last time was eggshells in the sink.
Yeah.
And you realized the pattern that she didn't really see, but you realized that pattern. And
After she passed.
After
I wouldn't have known it then.
But you figured it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I knew of the pattern before she passed, but
you put it more
that
together.
particular couple.
No.
Yeah.
Right. So now you end up calling the police to do a wellness check because you wanted just to make a joke, to have something funny to do later in life. Say, ha ha, I had to call the police to wake you up, you overslept.
Yeah.
And come to find out, they entered the house and they found her passed away in the bathroom.
But in the end, it's almost, and this is the way I've always taken everything with everything that happened. I've tried to put a positive spin on everything. Like, for example, how many times do you hear of people say, "Oh, the last time I talked to so-and-so, we were fighting, and then they died, and now I have to live with that the rest of my life." My last words were, "I love you," and hers were, "I love you." So I can't feel bad about that. I didn't have to go, like, what if I never did the wellness check and I went home that night, because I would have been going home that night, and went home, oh, her Jeep's here, yep, she's here, walked in and found her in the bathroom, dead. Whoop, there she is.
Well, that's her way, I think, of saying that she was glad the way they went.
So, but that could have happened.
You're right.
Nathanael runs in before me. He could have went in and found her dead. I didn't have to deal with that situation.
So do you feel that your positive spin on everything is wrong? In the sense that maybe you should
not everything.
Be upset. Maybe you should be more depressed. Maybe you should have been more, crying and not being able to process, over these last 4 years because you put such a positive attitude to it.
I don't feel like having the positive feeling of our last words being "I love you," because again, people didn't have last words with other people, or they had last words, but they don't even remember, or they were arguing. Again, I didn't have to identify her body. We didn't have to go there and find her in the bathroom. I think that was, I wouldn't have wanted to see that. I would have never gotten that vision out of my head. Now I don't have that vision. Another one is, what was I going to say? Oh, guilt as far as her dying. If a lot of people would say, do you feel guilty because had you been home, you could have saved her? No, I couldn't have, because she died from the seizure. She was going to die August 1st, 2020, no matter what. Like, if I even never met her, she was dying that day. Fate had it that she was dying from a seizure that day. So I don't have any guilt as far as, well, had I been home, I would have been able to say, no, she was dead probably before she even hit the floor, when she passed.
So you have a positive way of thinking.
I think with those 3 things, with those couple things, yes. I think that where maybe the damage from my mental health comes into play is immediately it was like, I'm going to show everyone how this is how you handle this situation. And I'm going to be old school about it, but also be like, show everyone how positive I am. And like, I would tell people about her dying and stuff, and I would do it smiling and stuff. And it's like, I mean, that's just part of my own, like, maybe nervous reaction type of thing.
Yeah.
But like, for example, when I did work, I wear this necklace pretty much I've worn it pretty much almost every
never
single
seen
day.
you a day
Yeah, I mean,
without
there's been a couple days, but I might have forgot it or something, but I pretty much always wear it. And, at work, I worked for a supermarket company, and, that was part of it, which we'll get into. I switched to the daytime, and now I'm dealing with customers, and you'd see the regular customers certain customers come in every day, certain customers come in once a week, and, being friendly and stuff, talking to them. And then there might be some that I've talked to for maybe like a month, 2 months, 3 months. And then finally they might say like, oh, is that your daughter? And like, oh, it's my fiance. I would always say it's my fiance that passed away. And then they, oh my God, I never even knew because of the way you are. You're always joking and smiling because I'm not someone that, and I don't want to say this in the wrong way, but I'm not someone that seeks the sympathy. And, now that I'm dealing with like depression and stuff, I think when I say that, I feel wrong for saying it because I don't think anyone seeks sympathy. As much as someone might be like, they want to keep putting it out there because they want that attention. Again, I'm not going to say it in that way of seeking sympathy because no one wants the sympathy for someone dying. They'd rather the person be here.
Absolutely.
But
so you're seeing all this time, like you said, you would greet people and you would talk and say, oh yeah, she passed, but you had a smile on your face. How did you feel saying it at that moment with the smile on your face? Did you feel like it was okay to say it that way? Was it a natural feeling, or did you like in your mind after?
Yes and no. Like yes and no, because I've never been the type that. First off, I'm a person that likes. I'm much more of an open person now than I was years ago. I wasn't really an open person, so to be open like that and let people in on my life,
It's tough.
It's just not me.
Something new, yeah.
Yeah, and it's something that I wouldn't do. It's not like I would immediately go up to someone and say, "Hey, how you doing? Let me tell you about this." It wasn't unless they asked me about it. I never would force it on someone, and so me, smiling about it or whatever. That's just my own nervous reaction. But at the same time, too, it's like, what did it feel forced? Like as you asked, yes and no, because no, that's how I was. And that's how I knew I wanted to be at the time. And now that I'm having issues with that, because the thing is, it's like, again, I never knew how to feel sorry for myself. Like, it was always my son. I was, okay, so like, they say there's the 7 stages of grief.
Yep.
Anger is one that I really haven't had yet. And I was like, okay, well, I don't think I'll ever have that because I can't be angry. No one murdered her, so I can't be angry. It's not like O.J. Simpson or someone that killed her, and I could be mad at that person.
I knew you'd get O.J. in somehow. I knew it was coming.
But anyway,
you didn't make the first
right.
spot.
I could have used anyone in the world,
Yeah.
but I used O.J. So anyway, which is funny because a friend came to the door last night that I haven't seen in like 20 years. And my son, my son didn't know him, but my son's like, the first thing my son said is like, do you know about O.J. Simpson? It's so crazy. Because we were watching the Bronco chase. Yeah. Anyway, so I always felt like, okay, I can't be mad at anything because she died from epilepsy. But then, in talking with my therapist, she was like, well, if someone dies from cancer, don't you hear people say like F cancer? And I'm like, yeah, they do. Why can't I be like that with epilepsy? I was like, I can be, but to me it was like hard because it's like, it's not a physical thing. It's just this thing. And now I feel like with the anger, I talked to you the other night and I mentioned that I was a little angry and I was angry. And here's what I was thinking about was when we're going to be doing this show, I was going to talk about the thing that angers me is like the cliches, like when someone says like, don't worry, you'll find someone else, or that's another whole subject, but like one of them is get ready, eventually you'll learn to live with it, this will be your new normal. And that was what kind of started getting me angry because it's like, no, this is not my new normal because this isn't normal. Like, this isn't a 70.
Why isn't this normal?
Yeah, this isn't a 75-year-old woman that died from just old age. This is a 31-year-old woman who was perfectly healthy other than epilepsy pretty much. And wasn't like she, we didn't know it was life-threatening because it's not supposed to be life-threatening. And what's normal about her passing 1 month before her wedding? That's not normal. So when someone says like, you'll learn to live with it, it's almost 4 years in. I feel like it's harder today than it was day one.
So what happens if this was, let's just hypothetically situation, if she passed in May and you guys got married? Would that have made a difference?
Had we been married?
Yeah.
There would have been the difference of at least we got married and now it's my wife. No, ultimately no, because again,
there's no wrong
it was
answer.
1
So
month.
be exactly how you feel with that question and answer just that answer. Because you went one way, then you just went the other.
I think just mentally, for the mental check of, yes, she was my wife. Again, I'm the type of, I know there's people that'll be dating someone and for like 4 months and they'll be like, oh, this is my wife. Or they have a best friend and like, this is my brother. Like even with like Stryker, like he's my uncle, but we know we're more like brothers, but I never say that because that's not the relation. Like it's a respect level to me for some reason. Like,
okay,
I would never call her my wife when she wasn't my wife because that takes away from that day when she becomes my wife. Now it's a little different where she's gone and it was only a month apart, and it's like I will say it here or there, but not all the time. And
I can understand.
Would it be different had we been married? I think the only difference would have been that, yeah, it would have been different because I would have had that day. I was robbed of that day. Like,
so is that what you're mad about?
That's another thing I'm mad about. Like, okay, so, I've been to 2 weddings since. One was Stryker's wedding, and his son was best man, which was the obvious right choice. But his son's real shy, so I gave the speech. So I was like best man honorary, and it's like she keeps falling here.
Yeah. She's like,
this never happens at home, ever. Maybe because I'm banging the table?
No, she's telling you that she was there with you that day.
She was there.
She was.
But, I didn't get to have the wedding. I never, and...
So you're hooked on this wedding.
My best man was going to be my dad. I never got to ask him. She did get to ask my sister to be the maid of honor and my niece to be the flower girl. Obviously, Nathanael would have been the ring bearer.
Yeah.
She did get to ask that. We did that on a special weekend. I never did ask my dad. I did tell him afterwards, like, that I was going to ask you.
How did he feel about that?
He cried. Because it's like he probably would have never expected it. I just, and what's funny? Because wrestling is the ultimate thing that brings everything together.
It really is.
Well,
you know
why?
Is.
You know why I thought it was such a cool idea? Hacksaw Jim Duggan, in a shoot interview I watched, asked his dad to be his best man. And I remember watching that, and that stuck with me forever, and to the point where I was like, whenever I get married, I'm going to ask my dad, because I thought it was such a cool thing. Even as close as I am with Matt, Stryker, or everyone else, it didn't matter, because I knew, like, ultimately, same thing with, like, Matt, Stryker, like he was saying, Stryker, when he had his son be his best man, no hard feelings, because I thought that was awesome. I know I'm right there with him. You know what I mean? There's no reason to be like, why wouldn't he pick me? Because it's not about that. It's about that connection, that father-son connection. So I got robbed of that. I didn't get to see her come down the aisle. I didn't get to have that first dance with her. I mean, these are things that I had to almost make exceptions for. Like the wedding song, I danced in front of her casket at her funeral with my sister, and then the rest of the bridesmaids, one by one.
So you really went into description, and I've learned more. And that's what's kind of cool about our relationship, because we have shared a lot. We
also did a thing too when she got lowered. I told you we played her.
Yeah.
She sang herself into the grave, and then everyone threw a couple piles of dirt on there too.
So, do you think if you guys got married, lived to be 70 years old each, and she passed away, if you would have did the exact same type of send-off for her? Because that was your words.
I mean, I probably would have. I probably would have done the same send off. It would have been totally different because we would have lived our whole lives together. There still would be a big difference because, it wouldn't be.
It would have still been a send off.
It would have been different. I mean, you're talking now. If she was say what did you say 73?
Yeah.
I would have been like 8. I'd probably be dead. So, but I would have been if I was. If I was alive though, I would have been about. If she was 73, I would have probably been like 80. I don't know, whatever. So
still...
I might be out of my mind.
Oh, yeah,
it would have been different. I can't,
So it would have been different.
I think the answer would have been different.
Okay.
She wouldn't have been 31 and like the peak of her life.
Would it have been a send off? Or would have been?
Yeah, it would have been a send off. I think at that time, if I'm 80 years old, it would have been different because it would have been okay. She's gone. She's going away. I'll be there in a few years. It would have been different.
Okay.
With this one, it was like.
This one you put.
I made
it behind it.
I made it like a wedding, and
you made it into a what?
Oh, into like a wedding.
Okay.
And then I told you originally, our wedding was in September, but we had to change it because of COVID.
Yep.
And it was going to be then. I can't even remember March. The date doesn't matter to me because it was never designed to be our wedding day. I think it was March 26th. Anyway, when that first so she died August 1st. When that first March 26th, the day that we were now officially going to be married, I ended up having a party at my parents' house. We ended up not having it, at the wedding hall and all that stuff. We ended up having the party at my parents' house, and we did do like a wedding cake, a lot of wedding stuff. We had Zsatara's mother had brought her wedding dress because she had said, "What do you want me to do with the wedding dress?" At first, she was like, "Should I donate it? Should I this?" And she was going to give it to me, and I said, "Wait till that day. I want to see it, but I think it'll be special to see it on that day." And then she brought the wedding dress that day and had hung it up. And then my sister had a video and pictures of when Zsatara did the wedding dress fitting, which I had never seen. So I did get to see her in a dress and everything. So, that's something I'll never forget. And so I did get to see her in a dress, but it wasn't, obviously not the same.
You did mention though that the funeral was like a wedding.
I constantly, when I talk about her funeral,
in your mind,
subconsciously, I say wedding. I say the wedding.
And I think, because it wasn't that traditional, and obviously she wasn't there that she could physically say, "I do."
Yeah.
Right? For a fact she would have. She
yeah.
Absolutely, any pictures of ever seeing with you guys, there was never a time that I could be like, "Yeah, I don't know about these two." You could tell there was true love.
Yeah.
Honestly, no BS, honestly. And I've told you about me and Missy, how we were supposed to get married and then everything canceled, and I told you that whole story. And I'm not trying to turn this into me. And I told her, "I'll marry you no matter where. I love you.
Yeah.
We could be in the middle of a street." And we did whatever we needed to do to still get married. You still did whatever you needed to do to make that day happen for you two.
No.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
And you had it. So because you didn't have that something that's traditional, because what we had planned for our wedding was definitely not what we got.
No.
We had to replan everything within a couple of days, and it was perfect. And I think how everybody said that day was perfect for you. I think what's happening from you right now is that you're still grieving, you're still dealing, you're always going to have that. I think a lot's happened over the past half year, so with you, and everything's just coming to a head.
I think
I think you kind of.
I think a big thing now, that's different now than over the past couple years is, it's never been about me. I've never been the type that was like worried about myself. It was always about everyone else, and now. I've had time, and now it's like, okay, now I am. It's almost like I'm stuck, not on the day she died, but I'm stuck mentally in that first week because it's like, okay, now I see. It's been almost 3.5 years, roughly, almost 4 years. everyone's life is evolving, changing. Mine has, but not in a positive way.
Really?
I'm not saying everything is negative. I'm just saying, like, what I mean by not in a positive way is, okay, so now this is the part we were going to get into. Like, okay, so she passed August 1st, 2020. Yep. Within a week or two, my son was going to be evaluated for, educational reasons. And then I found out that, okay, your son's autistic. Now, not that that matters in the sense of it doesn't change the way I feel about him, but all of a sudden it's like, okay, I don't even know what autism is, except at that time, kids hum and they don't talk. Like, I didn't even know the term nonverbal, and so now I hear, okay, your son's autistic. Well, what's that mean? Now, okay, he's been fine to me all this time, but now you throw out this word autism, now it's like I got to learn about it, and then, everything changes 2 months after she passes to now.
Telling you
again.
So everything changes.
Everything changes 2 months after. It's like I felt like I was a pretty good dad, but now you throw in this word autism, and a lot changes. Now it's like I remember too. His daycare was really, at the time, the daycare he was going to really made me have like a phobia of having him go to places, because they would call me up and be like, "Oh, your son is jumping on kids." Well, he had just started learning about Super Mario. So he was jumping on kids playing Mario.
He's a kid.
Yeah, and then they would call me the next day and say, you need to come pick him up today too. Well, what's wrong? Well, he's been sitting playing with Play-Doh for 45 minutes by himself, and that's not like him. So it's like I had this phobia of everything with him, and that made me the separation anxiety, I guess, in a way. Yep. I don't know if that's the right term for it.
Yeah, that would be.
It made me not ever want to not be with him. And now, like, after Zsatara died, we also had an issue with Nathanael where he did get out of the house one day, and this is what autistic kids do. They get out, and, luckily the police brought him back. It was one morning, she went to work, I came home from work right at the same time. I went to go take a nap for an hour and a half or so. He didn't get up right away. We had a doctor's appointment. Long story short, I'm making it. And then he got out of the house. And so I woke up and I'm like, Nathanael, he was gone. The door was open. I go outside. Luckily, I didn't even have time to panic because the police were coming up and they're like, yeah, you looking for something? It's like, yeah, my son. And so luckily I lived in the boondocks where, it wasn't like a main road or anything. And so anyway, that played into, as well as Zsatara dying, that here we are now 4 years down the road from her passing, and we still sleep. He sleeps in my bed with me. And I think that's even more me than him that relies on that. But, he's 8 years old, and I don't know if it's right or wrong, but I know that without him, I feel lost in that moment. Like, I think he would sleep in his own bed.
Why do you, so a lot in your conversations, and I'm trying to just keep it from conversations here in the show, not blending conversations that we have. So you do say, though, that I don't know if it's right or wrong. But why would it be right or wrong if it's right for you?
Just in the sense of I know, like, he's 8 years old.
Okay, but you're not doing anything harmful. There's no inappropriation going on there. It's literally having, and I have 3 kids at home, and we have my son, he has to come in bed every night. No matter what it is, you can walk him back to his bed. He just feels like he needs to be. It's that separation anxiety.
Yeah.
It's
just like, okay, for me, it's like I lost this one person. I lost her in a way of not knowing.
Just, yeah.
I left one day, or she left one day, and I left, and that was it the last time I saw her. Like, Nathanael had a problem. Nathanael had a big anxiety. Like, he has anxiety. Like, when I moved in, we'll get into this part, but when I was first switching to day crew, if he was awake before I left for work, it was torture, because the last time he saw Mommy was when Mommy went to work, and then never saw her again. So here, Daddy, all right, I'll see you. I'm going to work, buddy.
So now,
in his mind, he's like, no, don't go. And he's crying because he doesn't know if he's going to see me again.
So he has autism, right?
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people deal with family members that have autism. and some are just discovering that, like you had to discover. Do you feel that, like, and I am not making a joke of this,
Yeah.
do you feel like you, especially at the beginning with him, where you had to go to work and he would get upset, do you feel like it was kind of like that 50 First Date movie where you kind of had to keep introducing and reliving the same memory again and again every morning and recomforting him every morning
In a
because
way,
the way he was processing?
I felt like he just was panicking, not knowing if I was going to come back or not. That he didn't fully understand that Zsatara was dead and gone. That in his mind, just that I might never see my daddy again. I didn't feel like, I didn't think of it in the 50 First Dates kind of way, but it was hard. And like, you know, I'm such a work person that I would always, I worked for the same company for 24 years, and I didn't miss many days. You know, I don't work there now, but that's for a few reasons, but this is part of the reason, is my own mental health reasons. And, you know, part of it too, so like when he was diagnosed with the autism, now it's like, first off, she dies, now here he is autistic, so now it's like, I know nothing about it. Now I'm gonna have to learn about it, but now what am I gonna have to do as far as schooling and services and all that? I have zero idea. So I took off from August to January of work, and ended up moving into my parents' house in Boston. So now you compile these things. She dies, he's diagnosed autistic, now I sold my house, which I didn't have to do like financial reasons. It was for reasons, every other reason but financial. Like I could have swung it, but what am I gonna do up there all by myself, don't know anybody, and then now deal with an autistic son and then work nights? It couldn't be done. And then my parents were like, well, we'll sell our house and move in up there. And I was like, it just doesn't make sense for you to do that. No, because I don't want to work. I was like, I just don't want to do the nights anymore anyway, because I want to be home with him at nighttime. And so I also, on top of all those things I just said, now I'm switching my job of 20 years of night crew work to day crew work, which might not sound like to some people like, so what, you're switching shifts. No, it's not just switching shifts, it's switching a lifestyle. I worked overnight for 20 years. Now I'm in the daytime working, and now it's like, it took me forever to learn, like, okay, after work I can go out and take him to play in the playground, or I didn't know how to live. Like,
your whole cycle of how you even slept first.
I'm still, it's been 4 years, I'm still kind of not sure. You're talking about 20 years of working that nightlife, of working 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night to 6 or 7 in the morning. And, you know, it just, you know, dealing with that. So these were all major things that I've had to change in a 4-month span. And, you know, it's like, so when I say, I don't know if it was this episode or the last one where we were talking about my life changing, and I said not for the positive. Like moving back in with my parents, I'm not saying anything negative about living, you know, my parents or anything like that, but once you have your own place, even if it's your own apartment, not even necessarily a house. I mean, I had my own house, which was 2 acres of land. I didn't even have neighbors. Perfect for me. You know, it was great for what I wanted. Like, I bought the house with a previous girlfriend. We split up, she left. I stayed there for a year by myself, working overnight. This is what I'm saying, is like, I could have swung the house, but I stayed there for a year by myself, living in that house, because I liked the house that much. I loved living there. I loved the space, the privacy. And now, I had my whole house to put all my toys up and all this or all that, or decorate it the way I wanted. Now I'm living in a bedroom in my parents' house. All my stuff is in boxes. I've been living there now for like almost 4 years. And I know someone might say, well, just go find another place to live. Well, now the difference is, yes, I can afford a house where I lived in New Hampshire. I can't afford a house in Boston. It's too expensive, and I don't want to rent, because I know that I could get a house. So why do I want to pay? The paying rent is more than mortgage, but I can't afford to. It's not paying a monthly mortgage for the house. I don't want to get into the whole ethics of buying a house, but it's the down payment and all the stuff to get the house. The mortgage is not hard at all. The mortgage would be less than paying someone's rent. You know.
So what you just said here on this episode alone, you went from not being home when she passed to going home to processing that, having a couple of days off with your son.
And then, and another thing too is staying at the house for, from August to about January or so, where she died. And like, as we spoke, she passed in the bathroom. You asked that, do I have another bathroom? No. So anytime I go in that bathroom, that's where she died. It's almost like, it's not like where someone died on a highway. We mentioned, you can avoid that place.
Yep.
I can avoid this road. If I went to go take a tub, like I said, I like to take baths, I'm sitting in the tub looking right there the whole time, right where she died. And I'm just sitting there going, no, that's where she died. And you know what I mean? You can't avoid that. It's like, unless I want to go to the bathroom outside somewhere.
To me, it's like, I think and I think this happens to a lot of people too. I think life just goes on. It's true, 100%. Life was always going to go on. You went from her passing to going back to the house to processing that to telling your son to needing to sell your house to move back in with your parents to your job not being there to taking and I know this is the sequence is out of order.
Yeah.
To finding out about your son, and learning about that, with schooling and how you get everything right with schooling and
right.
You had always something continuously going because unfortunately
the distractions.
That is
and that's another thing that plays into it is that some of those distractions have gone away. Like now, I would used to say like him getting autism or becoming autistic, whatever. I mean, well, he was born that way, so but finding out he was autistic was almost like a blessing. Someone said, how do you feel about that? And I would say, almost like it's a blessing in disguise because it took all my focus onto him. But at the same time, I had to learn everything from scratch about autism, and I'm still learning. And some days are much harder than others, and like every day is a learning experience with him. Some days are great, some days are horrible, and I'm not the type of person like, would I have ever wanted to be a single parent to begin with? No. I certainly wouldn't have wanted to be one where my spouse passed away. And then on top of that, add to a child with special needs. And, when he first was diagnosed autistic, I look back now and go, man, I used to tell people like, yeah, my son's autistic, but he's high functioning, and I would immediately get defensive. He's high functioning. Now I'm the complete opposite, where someone, just like 2 weeks ago, someone was like, oh, is he high functioning? And in my head, I'm thinking like, F you, because it doesn't matter if he's high functioning. Like, yes, there are definitely kids that are worse off than him on the spectrum scale, like the kids that maybe don't talk at all. There's so many different levels to the spectrum, and I'm not comparing him to anyone. But for me, it's like if someone said, oh, but your son's pretty high functioning. It's like, yeah, he is. But you know how hard it is? Like, it's still so hard to deal with that. Like, it's
You're
not.
still learning too.
Yeah.
But
I just mean like when someone says like, well, he's high functioning. It's what I used to do. Like, he's got autism, but he's high functioning. So yeah, he has it, but he's only, if you want to say a normal kid and him. But I've learned, it's like what I've learned is, number one, that takes away from him because he has a hard time. He doesn't understand, like when he's dysregulated. I might use terms now people don't know. I don't even fully know him. But when he's dysregulated, he doesn't know it. And so for me to sit there and say, well, he's high functioning, he should be able to handle all that. No, he can't.
And he's a kid too.
Yeah. And
he's going through a lot too.
Right. That's it too. It's like, I don't know. My parents are still alive. So I don't know what it's like to lose a parent.
It's not fun.
He lost his mother at a young age. Like half of his life now, he's 8. Almost half of his life has now been without his mother. I don't know what that's like. And then I don't know if he's even processed it completely, not only because of his age, but because of autism and stuff. You know, he might not fully understand it.
I think you're questioning a lot, and I think that puts more on your plate. And this is just an outsider looking in.
Yeah.
Could be wrong. I think you have gone through an awful lot, and I'm going to tell you, every person that knows your story has told that you have stood up, you have done a magnificent job with your son, and you're handling it great. I think with everything that's happened, that's going on, you just said you haven't lost your parents. You're lucky.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, your son has lost one.
Right.
So I think you don't know how, maybe you feel that you don't know how to help him in that situation. And maybe you feel less for yourself. Maybe you feel that, okay, I haven't had my chance, because you maybe don't want to say, you know what, at the funeral, I had my moments. At this time, I had my moments. I can smile because I know what we had was real, and I'm happy. I think a lot you say, well, you know what, this world's telling me this is not how I'm supposed to be, or I don't know how I'm supposed to be because you hear this X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of people deal with. Everybody deals with it. At the end of the day, as long as it's not doing anything that's hurting you, physically, mentally, there's nothing wrong with how you're processing it.
See, that's the thing, though. It's like lately, over the past, so I ended up leaving my job of 24 years. I kind of self-sabotaged myself there.
But you also
to
said,
get out of it. I mean, there was a couple reasons.
Yeah. And
one
you
of the main,
also told me, and I'm not trying to get into our conversation, that she was for months telling you
oh, well, longer than that.
that it wasn't a good situation
Right.
for you.
But, you know, I enjoyed my job. I never was the type that was like, wake up, like, I mean, yeah, of course there were days where you didn't want to go to work, but I was never the type that was like, I hate my job. I liked the people I worked with. Everyone was pretty cool. But the thing is, like, going to work, again, going back to everyone's lives is changing and evolving. Mine never really did. It was like I was stuck in that first week of her dying, because it's like, okay, I'm afraid, not afraid, but you could say afraid maybe, but didn't want to experience new things. Like, okay, I'm not going to go watch this movie because I don't want to watch a movie without her, or I'm not going to watch this TV show without her. I had nothing really to talk about. So, and I know I don't want to talk about her 24/7, because I know people could be like, which I totally would understand. So I would go to work, and, you know, it became to a point where, like, in my own head, it was like digging deeper and deeper. I'm at work working, and I just try to work. But the whole time I'm thinking about her, and because that's at work, that's all I did was think about things. And you put that smile on your face with everyone. But, you know, I've seen pictures like where the pictures of a person and they're smiling. It's a drawing, and then in the drawing it shows like their brain, and the person's like hiding behind a wall. And that's exactly how I felt. And now my therapist would ask me, like, do you feel depressed? She would always ask me, and I would always be like, no, because I can go out and do things. I can, you know, I shower and stuff, because I know people with depression might not take care of themselves. But then the truth is, like, what was I going out and doing? Nothing, because I would go to work. And that's what I viewed as going out and doing things. But I'm such a work ethic person that I was going to work I mean, I probably shouldn't have went back to work to begin with, but I shouldn't have went back to work maybe even as soon as I did. And, you know, it just, work became harder and harder for me to go to. And then I started to feel like with work, certain management, I just felt like, for me, I'm like, look, I've been here for 24 years. I know what I'm doing. I mean, was on the night crew. I ran the building. Like, I'd be the only person even in the building. Like, I don't need to be told what to do. That was really starting to aggravate me. And then, just certain things that happened. I felt like, I felt mistreated at times and stuff. And, like the thing for me at the end was like the Valentine's Day had hit. And I'm not the type that's like, I would sit there and make jokes like, I get to save money this Valentine's Day. Hey, it's making jokes like that are to get you through that day.
Yeah.
And then Valentine's Day came, and I just remember there was someone, they were really on me that day. And I was just like, I'm not sitting here saying, look, guys, give me sympathy this day, but at the same time, like, you know, kind of cut me some slack today. And that day was just the day for me where I was like, I think mentally I checked out, and it was 2 days later that I went to work, and I was just like, I walked in, and I remember people saying like, "Hey, good morning," because I talk to everyone in the morning. You know, obviously, I'm a talker, and I just remember that.
Not you.
Yeah, I just remember that. I remember that morning, I would just be like, they'd be like, "Hey, how's it going, Geoff?" And I'd just be like, and I wouldn't even talk. I would, and you know, that was it. And you know, for 24 years of doing that job, I just didn't want to do it anymore. Not for all those reasons, but also I was having home issues with my son and my parents. Things had not been great. We're all trying to understand. Now, you're talking about me being an old school guy. My dad's even more old school. He knows zero or understands zero about autism. My mother learns about it. So now you have 3 different ways of thinking. So home wasn't a very good situation. And I just felt like I needed to get out of the situation I was in with work. It just, you know, honestly, I will say that work never, they never put my needs forward, or like if I wanted to take a vacation, it would always be, can you change your vacation? Can you work into your vacation? Can you come back? And I understand they're running a business. I'm a worker. I'm a good worker there. They need the body. But it's like almost becomes to the point where, okay, I take a vacation every week after Thanksgiving and every week after Christmas. And then to be told every time, like, well, can you change it? It's like, look, I don't just do this for me. I do this for part of it is for mental health reasons. Like, I'm dealing with Christmas without Zsatara. And my son wants to play with his new toys. I want to be there with him. So it was a lot of stuff packed into that. And work just wasn't benefiting me. Again, I've been there for 24 years. Hey, I can always find a job anywhere. Yeah. So, and you know how messed up I was right after that happened. For like 2 weeks, I mean, I had never been that bad off mentally, like depressed, because now you're talking about not just all the stuff I've mentioned with Nathanael and Zsatara and stuff. Now you're talking about, okay, this was half of my life that I've had this job, and I just, you know, walked out the door pretty much. Was that the right choice? Because, you know, so now you're talking about that. Now it's been a few months down the line. The work thing, it doesn't bother me at all, but at the time it did. And now it's like, okay, now it's not the work thing that bothers me. Now I've been having issues with my own just depression. And going back to where I would say what started that whole little discussion was about depression. And I would always be like, oh, no, I'm not depressed. I used to be the type of person that thought depression was like a made-up thing. Oh, they're just depressed. They're just sad, whatever. And that I didn't believe in it. I believed it was just a crock for medicine and stuff. I would never, you know, that was the older me. I would say the same thing like about ADHD and stuff too. Oh, that's not even real, you know. But now, you know, I know it's not true that this stuff is all legit. But you know, now if you were to ask me, are you depressed? It would take me, just like with Nathanael, and when you would say like, well, is your son's autistic? Yeah, but he's high functioning. I would immediately throw that out. Now if you ask me like, well, are you depressed? It's taken me a long time for that acceptance, but I would say, yeah, I am depressed. And it takes a lot for me to say that, because I've never been the type that, do I feel weaker for saying it? No, but have I always felt weaker if I would say it? Yeah. But do I feel weaker now? No, because now I'm admitting that through all this time that I've been sitting here telling everyone, like, oh, I'm getting through all this. How are you getting through it? And everyone sits there and says, oh, man, look at how Geoff's getting through this. Like, I've never seen anyone get through something like all the stuff he's getting through like him. Yeah, I appreciate that, but at the same time, I know it's not a facade, but I know that almost like the Batmobile when it had the outer shell.
Yep.
I know I make weird comparisons, but almost like the Batmobile, shields on. That's my shield. Like, that is me. I have fought hard to get through this with that strong dignity, and this is how I'm going to get through it. But at the same time, every couple steps forward, mentally, I'm taking maybe a step or two back, and now it's kind of caught up with me where it's like, again, going back to maybe the beginning of all this is like, I have never felt sorry for myself ever throughout this whole. I've cried and stuff, yeah, I've cried, but I've never cried like for me. Like, not till the other night when I told you, I was like, oh man, I've really, like 2 nights ago, I was just like, well, and taping wise, it would have been too much. Anyway, it was the first time I legit felt sorry for myself. It's because it's always been, okay, Zsatara died. So what am I sorry for? I'm sorry that she doesn't get to bond with her son anymore. I'm sorry Nathanael doesn't have his mother anymore. I'm sorry for that. I never ever included.
All right, so
I'm
what are
sorry
you
that I
sorry
don't
for
have
you?
my wife or my
right.
wedding or.
So are you sorry that you don't have your wedding?
Obviously. Well,
you
I'm
sorry
sorry
that
is not the word. It's like there's no
What's the
word
word?
that much bigger. Like there's no word that can, like, why, you know what I mean? Robbed. I feel robbed.
Okay.
And that's where the anger comes in, where I've been able to have a little
So
bit.
what about with her? Do you are you
So when
angry at
someone-
yourself because you don't have the person you love with you?
Well, so when someone like my mother would ask me sometimes, like or even like as my analogies work, Rocky, and Rocky Balboa, when he's talking to Paulie and Rocky's talking, it's perfect. The reason I bring it up is because it's so perfect for my situation. He's talking. He's like, man, there's some stuff in the basement, and Paulie's like, what's in the basement? Are you mad at Adrian because she left you? And he's, Rocky's like, it gets all emotional. He's like, she didn't leave, Paulie. She died, and that's how I feel. Am I mad at Zsatara? No, because she would have never chosen to leave or die. So I'm not mad at her. I'm mad at the situation. I'm mad for her, but I'm not mad at her.
Okay. So are you mad and feel sad because you don't have the person you love with you every day?
Yeah, because like for example,
No examples.
no, well,
No.
I can't.
No.
I don't have
Wait.
her to talk to. I don't have
Okay.
her to. I don't have like. Okay, I was gonna say, for example, just the other night.
No.
We got through a good. We got through a tough situation.
Hey, no examples. No
I
examples.
like giving examples.
I know you do, but examples go to other things. We're talking about you. Are you mad that your best friend's not here with you?
Yeah,
Are you mad because you can't have little jokes with her anymore?
I'm mad. I'm mad because I can't argue with her. How about
Okay.
that? Like even the stupid arguments. I'd much rather have an argument with her about eggshells in the sink than her not be here.
So you're mad because you can't have these argument times with her.
You can't. Yeah, you can't.
You're
basically,
mad because you can't walk through your door and see her anymore.
right.
You're mad because how you feel inside, you can't express it to her eye to eye anymore.
How about something like this? Like I'm mad that, again with the taping, I'm mad that yesterday Nathanael goes and gets this medal for gymnastics, and I've never seen him more proud. And I take pictures of him and everything, and there's someone that's not there. That pictures change. Nathaniel's growing. Pictures are changing. Her picture or her last few pictures never changed because she's not aging. You know what I mean? The pictures stop.
So you're mad because she can't grow with you physically
Right.
in person.
And I'm also mad, like we talked
Do you
about.
feel greedy?
Greedy?
Yeah.
How? Like, how do you mean greedy?
Well, do you feel greedy because she's not here and because
No.
you feel this empty hole?
No, I don't like greedy because I get to be experiencing these and
Mm-hmm.
she. No, because I think that goes along with the like survivor's guilt type of thing. I don't know if I have some. I told you I have no guilt about how she died. I think anyone would have survivor's guilt, but it was not. It was taken. It's not like the way she died. I think affects a lot of that. I mean, there's definitely times where I'm like, man, I wish it was me that went instead of her because she would have been much better at all this stuff than me. She has more patience than me. She would have been able to handle situations better than me. I'm not built to be a single dad.
Why aren't you?
I'm just not.
You're not. What are you talking about? You care about that kid. You feed the kid. You grow the kid. You take him to doctors. You play with him. You entertain him. He cares.
I had a lot of
about you.
help along the way.
He cares about you. He looks up to you. He wants to be you.
Yeah.
He gets excited talking to you. He wants to be incorporated with you. You worry about to make sure he has everything he needs on a daily basis. You don't skip a beat. Any person that sees you and knows you knows this. People that haven't seen you in the longest time, that hears the situation and witness you guys for 20 minutes can simply see it. You put this guilt and this label on yourself because You just don't want to feel okay. And that is okay. Everybody does that. It is okay to feel mad. It is okay.
So what you're saying is that is like a guilt in a way. Like,
it is. And it's okay to have depression. And you know why you haven't been able to focus on your depression? Because you had so many, and I'm not a doctor.
And the thing is,
I'm just like Dr. Phil, guys.
And
okay,
the thing is, like you're saying, I am starting to get a better handle on dealing with Nathanael and certain ways to handle.
You are learning things as things come in. You have had so much thrown at you and that little boy within the last 4 years that right now you have eliminated a huge portion of your life. Another huge portion that you wanted to spend your life with, unfortunately, physically isn't here, but I can guarantee is with you guys every single day. And you're processing that.
I mean, there's
that
literally not
depression
10 minutes
of you not being able to deal with it. You have been dealing with this for 4 years, but now you're able to actually take the time from your thoughts in her mind and process it, because you don't have to say, oh, wait, okay, yeah, I'm thinking of her. I have to put something on the shelf. Oh, wait, that's right. I got to get my sleep. You are doing one hell of a good job. And this is life. This is life. See, she's telling you, it is life. And it's life that every person out there is dealing with on a daily basis, no matter what the situation is. I deal with it with my father. I deal with it with just life in general. We all deal with that. You are not anything less of a person. You have come on here to open up and share your story. Not on 1 hour,
I've been more open,
2
like
hours.
I've been more open about myself with this than anything else. Other things I've done, also the time frame is different. We're talking the other podcasts and things I've done. They were within months of her dying, so things were very different. I haven't gone back and listened to them. I'm sure they'd be so different, but I mean, it was interesting. I mean, we could even I know we don't have time now, but we can even continue. There's still so much more like to talk about. Like
I definitely think we're going to continue this journey on our YouTube. So our YouTube page, and this ain't a plug for, we've been uploading a lot of content. We're going to do so much more content. It's just the museum has been involved with so much things lately. It's fantastic. We love it. It's just the back work of what we need to do is kind of tough. And this is something that I think it's helpful not only for our community, for everybody viewing. I think this is helpful for you too. And you're a good enough person that we need to continue to make sure you're okay.
If there's, and for my own personal YouTube page, like I'll break kayfabe here, put my real name out there. But if you go to my YouTube page, which is Geoff Applegate, just Google, YouTube it.
Applegate. I'm telling you.
Just YouTube it. It's Geoff Applegate, like Christine Applegate. Yeah, I broke kayfabe there. But I've put up a lot of videos of Zsatara or
and that's
the epilepsy videos and stuff.
You have found your outing.
Yeah.
And I think you have found so many outings to be able to handle this situation that your biggest, from what I see, and this is my personal opinion, is, but what if this or what if that? Don't what ifs, just take your heart, live with it. You guys were meant to be. She's always going to be with you. Thank you so much for sharing your story. We do have to wrap this up. Any fast words?
We'll have to continue. Just mental health, take care of your mental health.
Definitely do that, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in to Free Preview. We'll see you next time.